Welcome back to J&S Daily Drives, everyone. My name is Jacob, and today we're going to be taking a look at this very unique car, the 2010 Lotus Evora. To talk a little bit more about the design of this car and a little bit of the aero features located on the side here. So I want to start with the wheels. So the fronts are 18-inch wheels and the rears are 19s. They look absolutely fantastic, finished in the gunmetal look there. Yellow brake calipers, and this thing stops on a freaking dime. A few more things that I want to touch on over here. And the biggest one being this intake right here. Because this is a mid-engine car, it has an intake here to help with cooling. And a cool thing is that those lines from the front, they actually draw air in beside the mirror, and then there's actually more grooves in here to bring air to that intake to help make sure that that engine is cool. Big fan of the design of the Evora. It definitely looks like a supercar. You get a lot of looks on the road, and when we get to the price, you'll be blown away. Now we move to the rear of the Evora, where we can talk a little bit about the design back here. We have the beautiful titanium exhaust in the center there, around a nice diffuser. It's not very aggressive, but it's aggressive enough to let you know that it's an aggressive car. We do have a lot of venting on the rear, just showing that this engine can get very, very hot, meaning that it needs a little bit more cooling. And now I want to get to the most interesting part of the rear of this Lotus. Let's go ahead and take a look at the trunk space. You push the button twice, pull this up, and as you can see, this might have the smallest trunk I have ever seen on any car. It even says right here, maximum allowable mass in luggage compartment, 50 kilograms. 50 kilograms! It is absolutely tiny. I can barely fit my camera case back there, let alone anything bigger than that. As you can see, the engine cover right here, if you do need to take it off, you simply push these tabs in on either side, lift it up, and it comes out. We're not going to do that, we're just going to leave it. But in terms of trunk space, located right here is the trunk space as is. There's not, I wouldn't really consider them to be back seats, more just extra storage space. Yeah, the Lotus Evora kind of takes an L on rear seat space. Before I go on with the rest of this review, I have to say a special thank you to Norm and the rest of the guys over at International Motorcars for helping me out with this review today. They're the ones who provided me with this Lotus for the day, so special shout out to them. This is an absolutely amazing car. It's been such a surreal experience just driving something like this. So special shout out to them. Linked in the description below is the link to this exact car and the link to their website. Now that we're inside and we're driving the 2010 Lotus Evora, we can talk a little bit more about that engine and the transmission that it's mated to. So it's a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6 from Toyota, producing 276 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. And that's all mated to this 6-speed manual, which shifts so well. Oh, and the engine is absolutely fantastic in this car, and you know it's going to be reliable too. Go ahead, throw it down into second gear. Doesn't have a lot of torque, but once you get the power up there, yeah, that thing rips. With a curb weight of only 2,800 100 pounds, this thing absolutely flies. No, the power isn't insane, but it doesn't need to be with such a small weight. Oh my God. The sounds that it makes, it's so visceral. The driving experience is so visceral in this car. You know, it's kind of like a baby Lambo or a baby Ferrari. It's so cool the way that it's built. You know, it's very supercar-like in terms of the way that you're driving. I'll get to the interior a little bit more in a second, but it just feels so amazing. That engine, I mean, wow. 6-speed transmission feels fantastic. Like I said, it's a little bit finicky to use when you first get going. You really have to pull it into gear in order to get it going. And the clutch is pretty heavy. But if you can get past those things, man, is it ever a blast to drive. You know, there's not many cars nowadays, there's very few actually, that are mid-engine manual supercars. And I don't know if I'd quite classify this as a supercar because it's, you know, very low on power, but baby supercar, yes. And with that manual transmission, it's incredibly desirable. This car is absolutely fantastic to drive, and it's just so rare to see cars like this because they don't really exist anymore. And the sounds it makes, oh my God. Now we're gonna come up on a few corners here where I can begin to talk a little bit more about how this car handles, which is the most important part about this car because it's so low. It's got great suspension, great anti-roll bars. The thing handles like a dream, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. And because you don't have so much power and it's rear-wheel drive, you're not gonna light the tires up even if you have traction control off. You have to really get going to get those things lit up. But here we go. This thing handles so well. It's so smooth in the corners, and the seats hold you in absolutely perfectly. And you can just rock it out of the corners. Man, this car is fun. The way that this thing handles, oh my God, the pops. I don't know if you can hear that, but pop for me. Oh! So quoted 0 to 60 time on the Lotus Evora is 5 seconds flat. Let's go ahead and test that out. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. The thing absolutely rips. Oh my God. Especially when you're in sport mode. With sport mode engaged, the throttle response is instantaneous. It's very impressive how responsive this car is, and the steering is really heavy when you're at low speeds, but because it's designed to be more fun when you're driving fast. Let's talk a little bit about how practical this car is, which is kind of something that you can laugh at with this car. The practicality is, well, it's pretty pathetic if you think about it. The rear seats are absolutely tiny, but they do hold storage. They're more of a storage space than they are rear seats. You'd have to have the smallest legs in the world to fit back there. Trunk space is the same thing. It's really tight back there, but keep in mind that this car is designed to be taken out on weekends and to be had fun with. It's not designed to haul around a bunch of stuff because that's just not how this car was built. This car was built to be a mini supercar, and it absolutely nails that. All the materials, the leathers, they feel fantastic. The interior may be 9 years old, but it still looks like it was put together yesterday. Everything feels nice. The aluminum's in the middle. Like I said, the leathers, all of the buttons are super nice, and they work really well. The steering wheel is absolutely perfect. It's kind of like a racing steering wheel if you think about it. It's really small, flat-bottomed, easy to handle. And the overall layout is designed to be a little bit more out there than your average car. I mean, look at the door handles, for example. You look like you could stab somebody with them, right? It's different things because this car was designed to be different. And I love the sills. I love having that tub, which means that it's more rigid. I mean, it's a little bit harder to get in, yes, but it makes it all part of the experience, which I think is a very important thing about this car. And like I said, the interior quality is fantastic. The seats are incredible. The side bolstering coming up all the way to the shoulders. They are Recaro seats. We have bolstering down below as well, which help immensely when you're going around a corner. Like I said, this car can hold a corner at really high speed, so having those tight-fitted seats is awesome to have. I want to talk about something that is really interesting about this car. Now, although it may be a baby supercar, and supercars are known for being terrible on fuel economy, this car, because it has a mere 3.5 liter V6, I'm averaging about 12.5 liters per 100 kilometer. And it's not fantastic by any means, but for a car that you would consider to be a baby supercar, I'll take that. That is fantastic, because you look at supercars that are getting, 19, 20 liters per 100 kilometer, you could actually drive this car civilized and get around 10 liters per 100 kilometer, which is absolutely fantastic. We'll talk about the room inside the cabin. We've talked about the materials, but I want to talk about the actual size in here. And it is very tight. I am 6'2", and I have pretty good headroom actually. I have probably an extra 2 inches of headroom. But where it gets really interesting is places like hip room, shoulder room on the sides, and as well as feet room with the pedals. On most manual cars, you do have a fourth area where you can rest your left foot when you're not shifting. In this car, the pedal box is so tight that you kind of just rest your foot on the clutch. You don't press it, you just rest it there. That's your resting spot, which is kind of an interesting little thing. Another interesting little thing is there's actually a little pass-through underneath the center console, so my passenger could actually touch my feet, which is kind of weird, but it's kind of fun at the same time. In terms of hip room is really tight. It's not because of the seats do a pretty good job, but you're pretty cramped by the center console as well as by the door here. Because this car is so small, they want it to be tight. You don't expect somebody who's pretty big to get in here. I'd say anybody who's about 6'5" would have some real troubles getting into this car. But just by driving this car, it's a little bit different than every other car. Because of the tub, just getting into it, you can tell that it's going to be a very different driving experience. Like I said, the pedals are very close together, and they're actually a little bit offset too. So my legs are kind of facing towards the middle a little bit more, which is a very interesting feeling. I've never experienced that feeling before. It's very different and very unique. Same thing goes with the shifter. If you're going to go shift, clutch in, clutch is pretty heavy, but you really have to push that shifter in to make sure that you get it in. It does have a reverse lockout simply by pulling this up, but other than that, if you can get past the weird pedal box, the kind of finicky gear lever, it's pretty easy to drive. And as long as you know how to drive manually, you can figure this car out. It might take you a little bit, especially when you're doing a start in first gear. You really have to give it quite a bit of gas to get it going, but these are all small little things in what's otherwise an absolutely amazing car. What I want to touch on quickly is the price of this machine. For $50,000, you could get a Lotus Evora, which is mid-engine, has a titanium exhaust, it's a 6-speed manual, it's basically a supercar, and keep in mind, it's only 50 grand. That's a fantastic deal for a car like this. And the amount of heads that you turn with something like this, it's incredible. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. See you next time.